Okay. So we're good, and I'm ready when you are.
All right. So before I move through the sort of checklist, just wanted to go over sort of why no one is using the Believer Maryland intranet that we designed. It's primarily because the Boland intranet still exists, and that's what they're used to using, and they've used that for a few years. So even though we have this new intranet, there's no reason for them to use it because the same capabilities are available on the Boland site. And secondly, because they don't have control over their credentials on the Believer Maryland intranet. When we launched the website and we were first starting, I sent an email out to everyone with the generic like employee one username and the generic password that everyone would use to log in. However, on the Boland intranet, they're able to use their own email address and their own password. And a lot of times they'll email me or ask me, I'm trying to log into the Believer Maryland intranet, but it won't work, and then I have to remind them to use the generic login, and they don't seem to like that very much. So that's one of the main features we're trying to avoid, I think, is avoiding the generic login, having everyone the ability to manage their own credentials.
Are you trying to replace the intranet that you already have, or just supplement it?
Well, the first bullet point I have here is the login page on both the WBA and LMD websites will give users access to one central company intranet portal. I don't know if that's possible. That would be ideal for us, whether they're on Boland, whether they're on Believer Maryland, they can go to one singular place instead of having two different intranets or needing to navigate to the other company website to get to the intranet. I'm not sure if that's possible, but that would be ideal.
Can you tell us what the existing intranet is built on and how people access? And can you actually show me it?
So this is the Boland homepage. Up here in the top right, it says login. There's actually no login screen initially, which is something that I don't particularly care for. I would prefer to click login and then have it come up with like how we do on Believer Maryland site. But this is the login area. It's basically just hyperlinked to the Office Outlook web access, as well as the terminal services. There's no real space to post documents or anything like that. Video cameras for management. Not really sure what this is, but this is our simple login area as it exists right now.
So, can you click on those again, one at a time?
This is the email.
This is the email? And where does that live?
Boland email account when they're not in the office or on their phone or whatever. And then back up here. Terminal services. We have these on the Believer Maryland intranet as well. And that's where they can log in to get into our network. Do we have the same type of thing on Believer Maryland? The only sort of problem is that in order to get to these resources on the Believer Maryland intranet, they have to log in first, and most of them have forgotten that generic login. So that's why they just immediately go to Boland and then they can access it here.
I mean, if we replicate it on the new site, I'm just trying to think. You want them to log in once.
Right. So, we'd like it to be as it is on the Believer Maryland site, where you click login on the homepage and you're directed to one login area, where you would log in and then see something similar to like the way that that's set up, where you have to log in before you see the link. And then we have the email, we have the terminal server, we have the ability to post documents, the ability to post messages up here. If I wanted to change this to say, you know, company picnic next Saturday or something like that, I could do that. So the way that the Lever Maryland intranet setup is very close to what we're looking for. The main problem, like I said, is that people have to use a generic login and they can't manage their own credentials.
Right.
I'm not sure if there's a way to link the two, where clicking login here and clicking login on Word Boland would bring them to the same login page.
Right. So the bottom line is, on the Liebert, Maryland site or the new Ward Boland site, you would like a link that says, in the token world, that says log in. It asks for a username and password. It's the same username and password that they use for all these other things. They put their username and password in. They go to a landing page, at which point that Outlook email system, the other systems that you have on your existing website are there. They click on there, the username and password that they put in passes through so they can access those elements.
Exactly. Like right now, if I were to click on email, even though I've already put in credentials once, I have to put them in again to access email. If we can pass through those credentials, that would be great.
Okay.
So let me just jump back and highlight what we've done so far. The portal will give you access to the email account, terminal server, library of documents, and other files. That's so far. Users will need to enter login credentials only once when entering the intranet. These credentials will be passed to the Microsoft Exchange server to grant user access to their email account without needing to re-enter their credentials. That is the ideal situation.
Right.
As I said, what? Keep going.
I'm sorry, your audio cut out.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay. The next thing on the list is that users have the power to sort of manage their own credentials. If they want to change their password, they can do that without needing to contact me. Everyone can have their own username and just completely do away with the generic login that we have.
Right.
System administrator will have access to the user's password in the event that they forget their password. Just sort of simple thing. And then as the administrator, I'm able to post documents as I do now and sort of create new users, assign different roles, make someone manager, make someone employee, sort of manage the hierarchy. That's basically what we have now.
Okay.
This is different access tiers within the portal. As we have it now, there's employees see one thing, management sees what the employees see plus other documents, the security cameras, things that are not open to all of the employees. And based on what credentials are entered, the intranet will take them to either the employee page or the management page. I'm not crazy about how on the login page you have to click here. No matter if you click customers, employees, employees and management, it takes you to the same exact login page. I don't think we would need to have a drop down that has these three things if you're going to the same spot. But then, no matter what you enter here, it'll take you to your assigned role, which I think makes sense.
Right. Steve, what system do you currently use to manage your passwords? For all
the
of
Weaver,
them?
Maryland site?
Yes. So the ones that your users know, you know, that to log into from the existing website.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
All of your employees have a unique username and password that they use to access.
For the Boland intranet?
Yes.
Yeah.
What system do you use to manage that? What software manages those?
I don't manage that. There's no login credentials to get to. Basically, the intranet page on Boland is a page of hyperlinks that you don't need to log in to get to. So, the email credentials is just what they have set up for their Outlook.
And is that the credentials they use, that they know that they use to access some of these other tools? One was Outlook. What's the second link again?
Terminal services.
Is that the same username and password?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I can't check that here. I need to be outside the network to check that.
Right. In order for this to work the way you're describing, they would need to have a unique. Every employee would need to have a unique username and password that is used to access all of these tools. Because what you're asking to do, and Rob has joined us, so I'll just kind of take us a couple steps backwards just to get him up to speed.
Hi guys.
Is you want your users to go to the new Boland site that we're going to create and the Liebert, Maryland site, click on one button that says login, be asked for a username and a password. That username and password is usernames and passwords they already know, which means we have to figure out where they're being managed on your end, and we need to make arrangements to get those credentials into our system, whether it's using web services, whether it's, you know, getting a file and uploading the file every time you have a new employee, which is old school, but somehow there needs to be a way to reconcile what you have there and what they have here. So they go to the Boland site or the Liebert, Maryland site, they put in the credentials that they know, and they go to a landing page, and on that landing page, they have the choice to go to this terminal server, to their email, to the tools that we've already given you to upload documents or whatever the case may be. And what you're hoping happens is they click on terminal server, and we pass the variable, their username and the password variable, from that they used to log in to the site to the terminal server, so they don't have to log in again. And the only way that works is if the username and the password they used to log in to our system is the same as it is for that. Otherwise, they're going to be in the same position where we can't pass the variable because those credentials are different, and they're going to have to re-enter credentials, which is the problem that you're having to begin with.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
So,
I'm going to have to check in with Tony on what the credentials for the terminal server are. In the event that it's tough to do that or it's not going to work, I would say that we could at least make the email address accessible with the pass-through, passing the credentials, and then the terminal server, if they wanted access to that, then they would need to add in the second credentials, but I'm going to need to check on that, and I'll find out some more information on where that comes from, where it's managed.
right.
And then do one set of credentials for everything.
All right, so I'm going to talk, so you need to find out where they're managed, and just so that we can figure out how we're going to get that data, and if those credentials are consistent amongst all these tools, because we want the answer to that to be yes. Because what you want them to be able to do, now here's where it gets kind of tricky. Hey Rob, I want to get you up to speed real quick, okay?
Okay.
And I think you heard, but I just want to kind of talk through it one last time. They want to use the extranet or the intranet. They want to use the internet website as the place for their employees to manage their accounts, meaning if they need to change information or whatever they need to do, and to have the login that they use to access it be the same login that they have come to know to log into other services like their email, and hopefully it's the same for this, remote server scenario. So they would come to our website, they would click login, they would put the username and password that they're used to, which means we have to obtain that. And we have to figure out a scenario in which we can get that information, because employees come, employees go, whatever the case may be. But as new employees are added, or what we could do is make a rule that says, anytime a new employee comes, they use the website to add a new person, and that's what uses it. So we'll take an export of what they have for all of their employees. How many employees are there, Stephen?
I think it's around 35.
Or in a worst case, we will get everyone's credentials and we'll put it into our system manually, since there's only 35 of them. And moving forward, every new employee, whoever's in human resources, will have to go and enter them into our system, and our system will be what is the lead driving this. So the user comes, they put their username and the password in, they then have a landing page similar to what you've already provided, except when they click on email, we pass that username and password variable through, so they don't have to log in again to that email system. When they click on the link that says remote desktop, we pass the variable through there, and we empower their employees to log in and manage their own account. So if for some reason they want to change their password or whatever, they can do that. But here's where the trick is. I don't know how that is going to find its way through to a separate application like Outlook and the remote desktop if we're giving them the ability to change their own accounts. At this point, Stephen, did I do a pretty good job of representing kind of what we had been talking about before Rob joined us?
Yeah, definitely.
Rob, do you understand what I just described?
Yeah, you're looking for a single sign-on that can be used through all their different services, but you want it to be managed by the intranet that we built.
Yeah.
So do you have a list of all the different services you want it to be used for? For example, Mike mentioned the remote desktop and the email.
Is that in the document?
I'm sorry?
Is that in the document?
I think so. Yeah, Microsoft Exchange server and also terminal server. It's basically those. I can make a neater list and send it, but email, terminal server for all employees and management, a library of documents that I can upload to, a separate library just for management for more confidential documents, and then access to the security cameras like we provided for management on the Lieber Maryland intranet as well.
All right. I'll just be honest. I don't know if you can do that with Outlook and remote desktop. If it was a bunch of different web-based services, there's a program called LDAP, or it's more of like programming protocol, where we could manage all the users from a separate location and then use the LDAP protocol to get into the website, or maybe some of the other web services that you're using, but it needs to have the ability to use LDAP. A lot of programs do, but I just need to research and see if, for example, Outlook can use it or remote desktop. I'm not sure.
Okay.
All right. But that's the spirit. I mean, I think we know what we're going for, and you've provided us a document with the functionality. All of the other stuff is simple, well, with the exception of, I mean, to allow them to manage their own accounts is simple, except for the part that I don't know how we would get that change over to these other systems, but I'm sure that's part of what Rob is referencing. You have to research. The ability for you to continue to upload documents and manage stuff like that is no problem. The ability for you to add users and edit users as a super admin is not a problem. Really, the big question mark is, can we tie this WordPress website and the intranet associated with it with these third-party enterprise level solutions with leveraging the same username and password?
Sure.
So from our perspective, I think we understand what we need from a general standpoint, and you've provided us the document, which is the specifics. I guess I would ask Stephen, is there anything more that you wanted to communicate that we haven't already discussed that you think is important? And then I'll ask Rob the same question.
No, I don't think so. I think everything that we're looking for is included in the document that I sent, and after this conversation, I feel like you really grasp what we're looking for, and as you said, what the tricky part's going to be is where the question mark still is for us.
Right. So, Rob, do you have any other questions that you would need to know?
So you're saying that if you have a new employee and you need to get them set up with email, you want to be able to just add them into the intranet, and then it should automatically generate the email address for them and credentials?
No. They should set up email normally.
Okay.
But with keeping in mind that the credentials that they're going to be using for their email are what's going to get them access to the intranet. They should have access just to Outlook web. The web version of Outlook is all we really need to have the credentials to. If they're using like email on their desktop, they should just have that like as they normally would, and it really wouldn't be connected with the intranet. The only time we would need to sort of sync those credentials and pass them along is if they're outside of the office and they want to grab their work Boland email via the web with Office Outlook. That would be the place to do.
All right. So you're gonna create an email for them, and then how do the credentials share between the intranet and the email then? Because if you're creating a new email address for one of your employees, you need to go to the server and create an email address, and at that point, you need to enter a password for them at the point of creation. But then, if you're also creating an account for them in the intranet, are you just entering the same password in the intranet, or how do you expect that to be shared between the two?
Well, that's a question that I asked Rob. I mean, you pointed, so I'm thinking there's a human resource function, and someone's onboarded, and as part of their onboard, they're given a username and an email address and maybe a temp a password. And there's probably a scenario in which they go in and redo their password so that they're the only ones who know it. The only way I see this working is old school, which is that employee then needs to be set up with that same email address as their username and a temp password through the system. the system emails them and asks them to reset their password as the same one that they used for their email. That's old school option 1. New school, preferable option 2, which I don't know is an option, is somehow we get an export of that information from the system they're using to determine their email address and password. But I imagine that that's secured and encrypted and all that stuff, so I don't know how successful we're going to be with that. And that's before you joined us, I asked Stephen to find out where the email address and the passwords are originated. What's that system? And is there a way that, and once they find that out, we could research what that is, and if there's a way to dynamically pull off what we're trying to do rather than manually. So, Stephen, there's a manual solution to this, but it's not perfect, you know, which is that they have to do 2 steps. They have to do 1 step for their email. They have to do the same step for their password. And they then have to repeat that for the intranet, and those 2 variables need to be identical. And there's no way for us to test to confirm them if we go the old school way. The new school way, there's no error, there's no room for error because we're getting an export with both of those pieces of data and using them. Like, I know what you're trying. I know what you're trying to do. If you had web-based email services that were not, you know, enterprise, you know, and not, you know, and then I think, as Rob was saying, this would be definitely much easier. But because we're trying to have these different types of applications talking to another, that may be more complicated. But we're not going to give up. We'll give it the good college try.
Okay. Just so I understand the issue that we're discussing completely. So when we have a new employee, we will create their Word Boland email address, and we'll say this is also going to be your username for our intranet. That's going to be what they would type in as their username. We would say you need to set up your password in Outlook to access your email account, and then use that same password when you set up your Word Boland intranet login. And then if they do that correctly and they use the same password, then it will be able to pass the credentials from their intranet login to Office Outlook web access if they're trying to access their.
Yeah, so what you said was correct, except for the last part, which Rob still has to research, which is in order to reconcile the email address, which is the username for both your email service and the intranet, and the password. They have to do both of those steps as you described them. And that I know we can do. The question is, once we have that, can we leverage the username and the password that's associated with the intranet, which, if they did it correctly, is the same that they use to set up their email, and then communicate from the intranet to these services, which is what Rob has to research. So that scenario you just described is option B, which is less attractive than option A. Option A is you set them up once, we figure out how to get those credentials, we import them, or we do a web services so that they're always up to date, and they don't have to do anything twice. And of course, Rob's able to take those credentials and pass them along. So what I guess I would ask is, we don't need the answer to if B is an option, we don't need to know right now what the solution that you're using to create the usernames and passwords. But if you could find that, we could do all the work at once to determine if A is even an option, and if it is, can we still take those credentials and pass them forward?
Okay.
Now, what Rob, do you have any other clarifying questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay, so here's what I would recommend, Stephen. I think that this project, this extranet project, although it's going to be bolted on to Liebert, Maryland and the Ward Boland website, probably should be looked at as a project in and of itself, unless you disagree, and shouldn't hold up the fact that there's a Ward Boland site and it's the summer and now's the time to build it, because there may be some time to do some research. So I guess my question is, should I send you the Ward Boland proposal at the beginning of the week, because I'm about to, I'm ready to wrap that up, and then separately behind it send an intranet proposal, or do you feel that they needed to be bundled together for some reason?
I think we could do it separately. I think the issue we might run into is that people still rely heavily on the Ward Boland intranet, so I would want to, even if they are separate projects, I think I'd like to have them be targeted for completion around the same time, so we don't.
Yeah, that's okay.
Take away. Okay.
Yeah, because we'll just save that towards the end of the project, but at least we'll be able to begin the main one while you're figuring it out. And frankly, Rob as a programmer won't get involved in the project until long, and even if you chose to do it or not, by the time he's involved, he'll know if you've moved forward on both or just one of them, because there's still a lot of work that you and I have to do.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, cool. So that's what we'll do. We have a plan. Rob, if you have no more questions, I'm going to give you a quick follow-up call right after here, just to discuss some other items. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, so I don't know your schedule today, but we have a block of time now to talk through the projects, just our weekly meeting. But it's 1:36 Eastern. I haven't eaten lunch, and I have a call at 3 Eastern with Everspoon, because they've looked at all the punch list items that you resolved, and I told them there are certain things we're not going to do and certain things we are. So my question is, are you free instead of now if I called you right after my call with them, which would be anytime between 3:30 and 4? That time I'll have feedback from them. I'll get a handle of where their minds are and if they're satisfied and happy, or if they have concerns, and it'll probably be a better use of our time. Plus I can eat. Will that work for you? I'm going to set up a WebEx for 3:30, and I'll text you when I'm wrapping up, and then we'll log into the WebEx and go from there. Probably what I'll do is I'll just send you a text when we're done, and then that'll give you 5-minute heads up, because I'll set up the WebEx from there at that point. All right. Hey, thanks for being flexible. You didn't miss much. I got you. You didn't miss much. I got you caught up on